Thank you, Jayendra. It's always embarrassing to sit through that introduction, but such is life. So, in the next about 10 minutes, I'll try to contextualize what I'm seeing in my role as CTO of India's largest IT company, and in our global operations and in our global customer base. And then I'll try to contextualize it in terms of what does that mean to you. So it's a pretty ambitious agenda for 10 minutes, but I do have only 4 or 5 points that I want to make. So like everything else in life, we start with a commercial. So this is what I do for life. I run 3 key processes in TCS. I run research and development. I run our innovation partner network. And I also am responsible for the actual innovation process, which is to convert all the brilliant ideas which come from R&D, from the large internal social network in TCS, and turn those ideas into useful outcomes and business impacts, new products and new services that we launch. So that's essentially what I do. Okay, so what are the top 5 things that I'd like you to take away? The first is the opportunity which is presented to you all, whether you are academics, whether you are running your own companies, whether you are part of a larger company. The world of the digital consumer is opening up enormous opportunities. The predominance of customer experience, whether that customer is inside your enterprise, whether the customer is a B2B customer of yours in an extended value chain, or whether it is truly the end customer, that's a very strong trend that we are seeing, that the quality of experience is now driving the adoption of technology. The third trend is about inside the enterprise and inside the value chain of your enterprise, your suppliers, your partners, and your end customers. The role of collaborative technologies is becoming extremely important. The fourth trend is to do with the extraordinary jump in the volume of information available. The previous session, you got some glimpses of it in terms of what kind of actions can be performed on large amounts of data. I'm going to take a slightly different spin on it in terms of what does it actually help a business do. And lastly, there is huge opportunity and huge challenge in sustainability as well. So those are the top 5 that I'm going to focus on. Clearly, the biggest trend that we are seeing in the world today is a quantum jump in the number of endpoint computing devices that have happened in the last 5 years, with contribution from great companies like Nokia. Up until the mid-1990s or even the late 1990s, the predominant way of accessing information technology was the personal computer. And there is a certain cost barrier and there is a certain usability barrier that held the number of personal computers in the world to a reasonably large, few hundred million. But at the end of the day, less than 1 in 10 people in the world had access to information technology on their own. What has happened in the last 5 to 7 years is that there are now literally billions of people who own a very high technology device called a mobile phone. It may not be a smartphone, but it's still a far more sophisticated endpoint computing device than what we had in the, let's say, the early 1990s. That's actually an enormous big deal, because there are 7 billion people on the planet, give or take, and more than half of them have access to some form of computing through the mobile phone. And that is driving enormous amount of innovation and technology. It doesn't matter what business you are in. Your driver would say, "Sir, SMS amchirunga, sir." Right? I mean, would we have said that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago? No. So I think that is the opportunity to reach the unreachable customer. We are doing a project in my Bombay research lab on using the mobile phone, very simple low-end mobile phones, to reach out to the Indian farmer. In fact, I have a meeting with Chife next week to talk about that. It's mind-boggling in what it can do. It has won the Wall Street Journal Innovation Award in the same year that the Tata Nano won it. So an Indian farmer is the archetype of a non-consumer of IT. And farmers are now receptive to information and technology and social networking using very simple, low-end 1,000-rupee devices. I don't even have to talk about the information technology savvy high-end customers. So that opportunity is given. What is this world of mobility opening up? At the high end, it's opening up huge amount of location-sensitive, social media sensitive, and personalized information. You see some of this, the applications that you see, whether it's banking, whether it's insurance, whether it's airlines. The power of here and now access to very sophisticated front-end applications linked up to very strong back-end applications is changing the world. I'm seeing this in shop floors, I'm seeing this in supply chains, I'm seeing this in consumer facing, in service facing, everywhere that you deploy a technology which allows an end user to make a decision about a customer, a transaction, a workflow, a decision. This has never happened before. That we are able to afford to be able to give that kind of information at the point where it is needed. It might be a supervisor on your manufacturing line. If you are able to say that this event is of interest to you, Mr. Supervisor, and therefore you should take this particular action, you can do it today. Which is quite a big deal according to me. British Airways, for example, is using this for their flight crew to say that here is how you can service this customer better because you know that much more about the customer. And it's giving them enormous advantage in doing that. The third big trend is social networks, and enough has been said about social networking and so on, but I would just like to point out two factors. One is that our workforces, especially in India, because of our demographic profile, we are the world's youngest nation, or we will be the world's youngest nation for the next 15 years because of the demographic dividend of enormous number of young people who will join the workforce in the next 10-15 years. These children and these young men and women who will join our workforce are growing up, even if they are in educational institutions which are not supposedly tech savvy or they don't have all the resources, they are very much children of the digital age. They understand digital technology. They probably, as I said, own a mobile phone. They probably are on Facebook. They probably are using these tools to do their day-to-day communications. Yesterday, my 20-year-old daughter and my 13-year-old son were chatting with each other on Facebook from two different rooms in my house, which is kind of crazy, but you know, that's what they're doing. So when that generation comes to your workforce, joins your business, whatever that business is, it could be manufacturing, it could be distribution, it could be technology, it could be sales, it could be education, whatever, and your workforce, your workplace does not provide that kind of environment, I think you'll have problems in even attracting the workforce, let alone making them productive. So social in the enterprise, where work and fun come together, is a huge opportunity. And people are only now waking up to this fact that they need to do this, otherwise from a talent perspective, they may not get the right people for the next 10-15 years in your business. The fourth trend is analytics. As I said, analytics has been beaten to death about, kind of things that you can do with customers and so on. There was this article 2 days ago in the press that one of the big departmental store chains in the United States found that a young woman was pregnant even before she had told her parents, by analyzing her buying pattern at their departmental store. And they were right. Apparently the father had to beat a hasty retreat by saying, I did not know, I'm sorry, I came to your store and created a ruckus. Indeed, this what you said through your analytics is actually true. So that is the high profile way of looking at consumer analytics. But this one is a very real one that we worked with a real manufacturer in Europe who was part of a supply chain of a larger company in the United States. This is called event fusion and entity fusion. So a range of web-related news feeds, Twitter feeds, RSS, and so on were analyzed to say that there was a fire in a particular factory in Holland. What does that mean? That was then merged with data sitting inside the enterprise, which essentially said that, does it matter to me that there is a fire in this factory? It turns out that this factory is part of the extended supply chain of this major company in the US. And therefore, an alert is there called for to say that, you know what, a tier 3 supplier of yours has been knocked out because of this fire. In the normal course, this would have taken a week for this company to detect the fact that an event like this has happened, which is going to impact my business 2 weeks from now, because he's not able to produce that kind of a component that I will need to produce for my downstream activity. Very practical example of fusing information from the web with master data from inside the company to detect events, in this case an alert for a supply chain event, but it could be anything. People are using this to find out employee absenteeism. Your employee says, I'm not well, and so on, and you casually look at their Facebook page and they're having a party at home. Obviously there's something wrong, right? So the power of analytics for the business, I don't think we've even started scratching the surface. Lastly, green for planet and profit. I think this is an underestimated area. When we talk about green and sustainability, we say, yeah, of course, that's important, but I got to worry about my here and now. What we are seeing is the best way to actually implement green and sustainability initiatives is to link it to top line and bottom line. If you are able to measure and manage your energy consumption, and with today's technology it is relatively straightforward to do it, you can actually save money, enormous amounts of money. The TCS CFO and I floated a project 2 years ago to say that if TCS is spending X 100 crores of rupees on our electricity and cooling, can we not save 20% of it? It's a big chunk of money at our scale. 20% of a few hundred crores is a big amount of money, I can assure you. And we did that with very commonsensical tools that we built. Of course, it reduced our carbon footprint. Of course, it helped us look good and become the top 10 green company, etc., etc. All that is nice, but it finally saved us 50 crores. And that is not small change, right? So the linkage of technology for things like energy, carbon footprint, sustainable supply chains, recycling, your own data centers and power, I think there is much, much more to be done in that space. And just as an aside, my green initiative also produced the Tata Swatch filter. I don't know how many of you own it, but that was my last commercial. Thank you so much for your attention. Those are the top 5 trends that I wanted to leave you with. Thank you.